Hello and welcome to Advanced Mathematics 1, Unit 2, Part 2, Literal Equations and Removing Decimals and Fractions. So let's jump in. So by the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to do the following things. You'll be able to rewrite literal equations. You'll be able to remove decimals from linear equations, and you'll be able to remove fractions from linear equations. We'll explain a little bit more about why we might want to do that when we get there. All right. Our main concepts for today are as follows. First of all, a literal equation is just an equation that has multiple variables. So it might be a formula that, for the area of a rectangle or something like that, that has, length times width. And generally we want to solve the equation for one of the letters in the equation. To remove decimals from an equation, you multiply the entire equation by a power of 10 equal to the greatest number of decimal places in the equation. So you look at all of the numbers, count the decimal places, whichever one has the most, you multiply by a power of 10 with that number of zeros. And then to remove fractions, you multiply the entire equation by the least common multiple of all the denominators. So hopefully you know the best way to find the least common multiple is using prime factorization. And I'll kind of go over that here, but it should be something that you should definitely look into if you've never done it that way before. All right. Let's start with our literal equations here. So a literal equation, like I said, you can see this has two variables, has an x and a y. In this equation, we're solving for y. So basically, we solve these the same way we would any other equation, except we're basically going to treat the other variable kind of like a number. So I want to get rid of that from that side. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. I cannot subtract 4x and 9, so I just rewrite both of those. So I have 3y on this side equals negative 4x minus 9. Now we need to undo the multiplication. When we undo the multiplication, we undo it from everything. So we're dividing this whole side by 3, but you can do that by dividing each of the individual pieces by 3. It's a way easier way of doing that. So I'm just going to rewrite this side. This is 4/3 x, and then 9 divided by 3 is just 3. And that's it. That's all there is to this. So it's not really anything new. It's just you getting kind of used to working with this multiple letter thing. All right, this one's a little bit more complicated. It's got some distribution going on. I want to solve for r. There's only one r in the equation right now. So I'm going to start by simplifying the left and the right side, just like I would if this is a normal equation. So I'm going to distribute here, and I'm going to distribute here. So I've got 4x minus 3, copy the minus r, copy the plus 2x, and then the other side, 5 times 3x is 15x, 5 times 7 is 35, negative because of the negative 7, and then plus 9x. Now I want to combine like terms on both sides, so I have this 4x and this 2x over here that combine together to make 6x. Copy the minus 3, copy the minus r. On this side, I have 15x plus 9x, which is 24x. And then I copy the minus 35. Now I want to move everything that's not an r to the other side of the equation. So I want to move the 6x to the other side. So I'm going to move that by subtracting it. I'm going to get rid of this negative 3 by adding it. So I'm going to add a 6x. I'm going to put it under the x. I'm going to add a plus 3, which I'm going to put under the number, just to make my life easier. So I have negative r equals 24 plus 6 is 30x. And then negative 35 plus 3 is negative 32. Now I'm still not done because this is negative r. So to get rid of a negative r, I'm going to multiply everything by -1 and this whole thing by -1. So I get r equals negative 30x plus 32. Final answer. Unfortunately, with these, there's no real way of checking your work. So you just have to be very careful along the way because you can't go back and plug that back in. It's not going to make any sense. So there you go. All right, so we're going to jump into learning how to remove fractions first. Just in case you want to know, you can certainly do these problems without removing the fractions from the equation. The reason that we're learning it here is because later on we are going to deal with fractions that have letters in the denominator, and you have to use this method to do it. So it's a lot easier to learn to use this method with numbers before you jump into doing it with letters. So that's why I show you how to do it, and I have you actually do problems that make you do it. So anytime you have a mixed number, you want to convert that mixed number to an improper fraction before you start working with the equation. So I have 6 times 3 is 18, plus 2 is 20. So this is 20 over 3. Now I'm ready to find my least common multiple. So I have a 3, a 12, and a 3. So my least common multiple of all those denominators is 12. That's easy enough because 12 is a multiple of 3. And so I'm going to multiply everything in this equation by 12. So all 4 things are going to get multiplied by 12. So 1/3 times 12 is the same as 12 divided by 3, which is 4. 5 twelfths times 12, the 12s cancel, and I just end up with the 5x. 2 times 12 is 24. And then the other side, I have 20/3 times 12. So I can take the 12 divided by the 3 first, which is 4 times 20 is 80. So that's what 20/3 times 12 is. Now I'm going to combine my like terms over here. So I have 4 minus 24 is negative 20. So I just copy the rest. I'm going to get rid of my 20 by adding 20 both sides. So 5x is 100. And then last but not least, divide both sides by 5. And I get x equal 20. You definitely want to go back and check, and you want to go back and put the 20 in for x with the fractions. So you'd punch in 1/3 plus 5 twelfths times 20 minus 2, and you should get 6 2/3, and it does work. So there you go. Now, for example 4, we have 2 distributions. I could distribute first, but it's a lot easier if you just look at multiplying the denominators here and figure out what that denominator would be, which is 6. So my denominators are a 6 and a 5. So when I multiply by the least common multiple is going to be 6 times 5 is 30. I'm going to do it at the first instead of distributing first. Now when you do that, because you have a multiplication, you're only going to multiply by the thing on the outside, not anything on the inside. So you'll take 30 times 1/5 and you won't change this 5x minus 3 at all. So 30 times 1/5 is the same as 30 divided by 5, which is 6. So I'm just going to copy the rest. And then I'm just going to multiply the 30 times 2/3. I'm not going to multiply by anything in here because that would be double multiplication. So 30 times 2/3 is 30 divided by 3 is 10 times 2 is 20. And then I copy the x plus 1/2 here. So now I'm ready to distribute. So 6 times 5x is 30x. 6 times 3 is 18. And obviously it's still negative because of the negative. And 20 times x is 20x. 20 times 1/2 is 10. So now I'm ready to move my letter terms. So I'm going to move the 20x over to the other side by subtracting 20x. I get negative 18 on this side. And on this side, I get 10x, sorry. 10x minus 18, forgot about the x's there. Like, where'd my x's go? Almost lost them. All right, equals 10. Now I'm going to add the 18 to both sides. So I get 10x equals 10 plus 18, which is 28. Now, you could divide that and get 2.8, but because the thing has fractions, you generally want to leave it as a fraction. So 28 tenths reduces to 5/14, 14/5. Oh, I'm dyslexic this morning backwards. That's an interesting thing. So again, I'd want to go back and check that. So you'd be very, very careful to punch things as it is. So you'd go 1/5 parentheses 5 times 14/5 minus 3 end parentheses, and you'd get 2 1/5 on that side. Then the other side, you have 2/3 times, in parentheses, 14/5 plus 1/2 end parentheses, and you get 2 1/5. So it does check. So that's good. All right. And last but not least for today, we are going to remove decimals from this equation. So we count up our decimal points. It says 1, 2, 2, 2. So the most is 2. So I'm going to multiply by a power of 10 with 2 zeros on it, so 100. And we're going to multiply everything through by 100. So that's going to move every decimal place 2 places. So this becomes 30. This becomes 6. This becomes 2. This becomes 2. And then 4 times 100 is just 400. And then we're ready to rumble. So we're going to combine our like terms. So 6p minus 2p is 4p. 30 plus 2 is 32. You can do that in whatever order you want. Now I'm going to subtract the 32 from both sides. So 400 minus 32 is 368. And then we're going to finish up by dividing both sides by 4, which is 92. Again, you should go back and check your answer. So just plug it in your calculator. So 0.3 plus 0.06 times 92 plus 0.02 minus 0.02 times 92 equals 4. So there you go. So it worked out and we're ready to go. So I'll see you next time.